Hello and welcome to the MBOM podcast, where you'll learn to master the business of yoga. MBOM is a proud part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, a yoga business coach, and a total business geek. Here at MBOM, you'll learn everything you need to know to create a sustainable yoga business by learning from myself and guests from around the world about how they built their yoga businesses, and about how you too can become a successful yoga teacher, studio owner, and much more. All right, let's dive in. Hey friends, I just wanted to pop in and talk a little bit about MBO behind the scenes. When I entered the yoga world as a teacher, I was surprised by how many yoga teachers were struggling with the business side of yoga. And that's why I created MBOM. MBOM helps yoga teachers and studio owners become entrepreneurs. It helps you to go from surviving to thriving with your yoga business. I am on a mission to change the yoga industry, to teach yoga teachers and studio owners about the business of yoga, and to help you feel more confident, successful, and abundant. After releasing hundreds of podcast episodes, I want to create content that dives deeper into helping yoga entrepreneurs thrive and elevate their businesses. This is where MBOM Behind the Scenes comes in. Each week, you will get bonus content from the weekly guest or myself, diving deeper into how you can take the teachings and apply them to your business. This podcast is designed for yoga teachers and studio owners who are ready to take it to the next level. If you enjoy MBOM and have been looking for an affordable way to learn more, this is it. For the cost of 2 lattes per month, you will get never-before-heard content that you can't access anywhere else that will give you tangible ways to dive deeper into your yoga business. If this sounds like something you're interested in, let's dive in. Head on over to patreon.com/MBOM yoga and sign up to get behind the scenes now. Once again, that's patreon.com/MBOM yoga to get all the exclusive behind the scenes content. I'll see you there. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the MBOM podcast. This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Offering Tree. Offering Tree makes digital marketing fun, easy, and affordable. They are your one-stop shop for your website, scheduling software, membership management, payment, email newsletter, and more. Keep listening to hear how you can use Offering Tree to spend more time teaching and less time managing. And today on the podcast, I am thrilled to be joined by Kari Russell. Kari is an energetic business coach that uses human design, emotional intelligence, and mindset to help our clients align with their purposes and their businesses. And on this episode, Kari and I dive into all things human design, including what it is, what the different human design types are, what they mean, and how to use this in your business to become more aligned with the work that you are doing. And so if you are new to human design, that's okay. What you want to do is go to mybodygraph.com, exactly like it sounds, and actually find out what your human design type is. And so what you're going to need to know is your birth date, your birthplace, and the time of your birth. And this is going to give you your human design. So it's mybodygraph.com, and put in all that information so that you know what the heck we're talking about today. And that's going to really help you kind of follow along a little bit more with the different types and, the different emotional centers and all the stuff that Kari goes into. So hit pause, find out your human design type if you don't know it already, and then come back to the episode to dive in a little bit more. And this episode was so fun for me because we were able to use my human design chart to get some of the examples and talk a little bit more in depth about what this human design is all about and how we can really utilize it. And I walked away from this episode feeling really empowered and inspired with this whole practice. So I hope that you enjoy this as much as me. And without further ado, here's Kari. Welcome to the podcast today, Kari. I'm really excited to have you here with me.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm so excited as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun conversation. And I'm curious if we can start by you just telling myself and listeners a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
So I'm an energetic business coach, and I really help women stand in their power and own their magic in a way that allows them to build their business their way. And I do that by fusing human design, emotional intelligence, and mindset work. So this is all about them really finding their own integrity and their own authenticity in their design and building their business in a way that feels fun and juicy and aligned. And so they're not looking outside of themselves for the answers. They're really just tuning in to what feels good for them and building their business their way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel so aligned with that way of doing business. I think as I became a yoga teacher and then started working on the business side of yoga, I really felt like, as yoga teachers and as wellness entrepreneurs and that type of thing, we run these like heart-centered businesses. And part of that is really knowing like who you are and how you want to operate. So there's all these like tips and techniques that you can do in your business. There's like ways that you can market your business and your programs and your offerings. But ultimately, we have to find kind of how we use those tools in a way that feels like really aligned to us. And I think the big piece is really what you do with the human design, with emotional intelligence, with mindset to understand who you are so that you can really understand how you work best.
100%, because like you said, like there's a million and one different strategies that you can use inside your business, but if you're just blindly following them because that's what you were told you should do, then it usually doesn't feel as fun and it usually doesn't work as well. So I really help women tap into, I like to say it's like the energy behind the doing and really making it come from this aligned place in who they are so that it's fun and it feels easy and it flows and there's not as much resistance and you really just get to own who you are inside your business and do things your way.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so when you work with entrepreneurs, what's kind of like the first step for figuring all of this stuff out?
100% understanding their human design. Human design is a system that is literally giving you your energetic blueprint of how you're meant to be working in the world. And there's 5 different energetic types. And then from there, there's so much differentiation between, what makes you, what your strengths are, what possible conditionings you might have from growing up, even to understanding your fears, how you think about things, how you process. Like human design literally gives us a blueprint to work from so that you're able to show up in complete alignment with how you're meant to be, not who you think you should be.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, because the world kind of like impresses on us who we should be, and society kind of tells us how we should be and how we should behave, what things we should do. And I love the idea with kind of figuring out like, okay, this is who you actually are, follow that. And I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know a ton about human design, but I did do my test on Body Graph and it's just like eerily accurate to who I am. It's just so crazy.
And that's usually the case. That's usually the case. A lot of the times when I'm sharing, their chart with them, like a client's chart, they're like, "Oh my God, this is so me." And it's like, yeah, this is, of course, this is you. This is who you were meant to be. But society and conditioning makes us feel like it's not enough, or that we have to do things differently, or certain things that we've always known about ourselves, we've made to feel bad about. And this is, human design really gives us the permission slip that we've all been looking for to really just be who we are without any expectation and without any negative thoughts around it. Like, for example, projectors make up 20% of the population, and they're really only designed to be working 4 to 6 hours a day. And so society as a whole is literally set up completely opposite to that, like praising hard work, praising long hours, praising the hustle, you know what I mean? So right off the bat, projectors are being conditioned out of complete alignment for who they're meant to be. And a lot of the work I do with my clients is the deconditioning of who they think they need to be, and then trusting who they actually are.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm curious for those listening who aren't super familiar with human design, how does it sort of work? Like how do you get these different results and that type of thing?
Yeah, so it's not so much of a test or a quiz. It's really just like a scientific algorithm. So this is what I love about human design is that there's no objectivity in it. It's not like you're sitting down to answer a quiz where your current emotional state can impact how you see yourself. And certain people have different levels of self-awareness, which can then impact their ability to answer appropriately about themselves. So human design just uses, your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location. And it's all based on where you were in time and space when you were born, and how how, the planets were aligned and the neutrinos that passed through you when you first took your first breath. Like it's a scientific algorithm and there's no changing. And you can take the test 1,001 times and you'll get the same answer every single time because your birth information never changes. And this is what I love about it is I'm very much like a science mind. And I also have this very soulful spiritual side. So it's really the science of differentiation, and it brings in so many different levels of who we are and how we're meant to be showing up in the world. And it's people who hear about it the first time, they're like, oh, like, what is this? It's kind of got like a really wonky chart. And like, there's all these numbers and all these lines and all these shapes. And it seems like overwhelming, which it can be. But once you start to understand what it's telling us about you, it's like the biggest eye-opening experience ever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. I pulled up my chart and it's got this like outline of a person, and it says I'm a manifesting generator 2-4. And then I've got like, one square that's brown, one triangle that's brown, one triangle that's red, one square that's red. My sacral is yellow. And then I've got like 4 spots that are white. And I'm like looking at this like, what the heck is this about? So maybe we can use like my chart as a bit of an example to kind of showcase to people kind of how this works, and then talk about how they can apply this to their business.
Totally. So using you as an example, you said that you're a 2-4 manifesting generator.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested. Are you looking at your chart right now, Amanda?
Yeah, I got it up.
Okay. So do you see the square in the center?
Yes.
It should be the second one up from the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's your sacral center there. So that should be colored in on your chart, which would make you either a generator or a manifesting generator. And then the triangle to the right of that, is that colored in or is that white?
It's brown.
It's brown. Okay. So then you're what we call an emotional manifesting generator. So what this means is that you have an emotional authority. That's your solar plexus center, and that center houses all of your emotions. So what this tells me is that you're not actually meant to make decisions in the moment. You're meant to experience the wave of emotions that you feel. And then when you come to this place that I call emotional neutrality, when you're neither like super happy or super low, it's just you feel calm, cool, and collected. This is when you are designed to tap into your sacral, which is that colored in red square. And this is where you make your decisions. So this is what we talk about in human design as our authority. And each of us have an authority of how we're meant to make decisions in life and business. And, as a society, we've been conditioned to think things through, to use our brains to make the decision. However, our brains are only there to process the information. It's somewhere in our body that we're designed to make our decisions. So for you as a manifesting generator, an emotional manifesting generator, you're here to be all the things and all the places. The manifesting generator energy is, we like to call them the master multitaskers. So you're here to be in many different things at once. Like you're not here to niche down. You're not here to be super focused on one specific thing. You can, and you have the energy to be involved in anything that's lighting you up in the moment. But with that emotional solar plexus, you're also meant to take your time in making decisions. And so that's what we call your authority. And then as a 2-4, this is your profile in human design. So in human design, we talk about 6 lines, 1 through 6. And then our profile is the combination of 2 of those lines. So you're a 2-4, which we call a hermit opportunist. So the hermit is very well named. You're here to spend a lot of time alone by yourself, introspective. You have all of these insights and all of this wisdom that comes when you give yourself that time to reflect and process. However, a lot of the time with the 2s, they don't necessarily see themselves in the exact light that other people see them in. It's almost like you see yourself in other people more. So if someone's in your presence who has a similar quality to you, you're like, oh my God, I'm that way too. And you recognize yourself in other people. And then the 4 in your profile it's called the opportunist, but I like to call it the networker, the community manager. You're here to be in community, in connection with other people. You're this master communicator and master connector. And it's about this network of people that are in your area. And it's this win-win relationship that you get to have with people and communities, and that what you have is of value to the community that you're in, and that so that you can give to that community. And then you're also there to receive opportunities from your community. So it's, the fact that you're running this podcast it makes sense because you're connecting with people and you're broadening your network. And that was a big tangent on just your type, but it's incredible the amount of information that we can find out about one another just from knowing like the simple basics of you being a 2/4 emotional manifesting generator.
Yeah. Do you know what's so interesting too about you talking about the manifesting generator is niching down in not just like my business, but my life is like the hardest thing ever. Like I describe myself as multi-passionate because I also have a travel podcast and I also have a podcast on holistic health and wellness. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll take more trainings in that direction and start my business there. And then, I'm also doing like the business of yoga stuff, working with yoga teachers and studios, and all of, my accountability friends and stuff who do similar things are like, your hand is in way too many pots. Like you need to let some of this go. And I'm like, but I can't. I love it too much.
And this is going to be the key for you, Amanda, is anything that's lighting you up, that's what you're meant to be doing. It doesn't matter if it's, there might be periods of time where it's like one or two things, and there might be periods of time where there's like 5 or 6 different things, but you're here to really follow what's lighting you up. And if that has you in many different places, then that's your path. And Mani-Gens are often conditioned to niche down when that's completely out of alignment for you. You're definitely not meant to niche down. You're here to be in all the things and be all the things that you desire and be all the places. That's perfectly aligned for your type.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And then kind of applying that knowledge to my business, how do you kind of make that, I guess, like functional to make sure that you're making money in your business? Because I guess one of the arguments for niching down is like you're really speaking to your people. You can, tell them what you offer. And I think that is one thing I struggle with is like, oh, I do all these different things and I'm not focused on any one thing.
So, and I completely understand that. And, my coaching around that would be about, getting clear on, I always like to think like, if I'm clear, then the people who I'm talking to will be clear. But if I'm cloudy, then no one's going to understand what I'm saying. So for you, it would be like looking at like, who are the people that would benefit from working with you in each of the different pockets of space that you have available. And so when you're speaking about, this podcast, you'd be speaking to a different person than you would if you were speaking to, your travel podcast or studios. And so it's really about, not niching down and only targeting one type of individual. It's just when you're speaking about the individual offers, make sure you're clear on who this offer is for so that the right people can hear your message.
Right. So it's like you can still be reaching kind of like a specific group of people within each thing that you're working on, but it's like you don't have to just have like one niche that you're focusing on, but getting clear with each of those
exactly.
Things.
Yeah, it's really about, speaking to, who you want to be attracting into that pocket inside your business. But that doesn't mean you can't, and there will definitely be overlap, and there'll be people who are, who jump into multiple different pockets inside your business. But the idea that you only have to pick one is like completely ludicrous for a Mani-Gen.
Okay, well, that's nice to know. I like that. I'm gonna roll with that going forwards because that definitely, is one of those like business things that I'm teaching the people that I'm working with that kind of keeps me up at night where I'm like, oh God, I'm not doing this myself. I just don't know how. I just can't. So I'm gonna roll with that. So thanks for that permission. One of the things I'm curious about, so we talked about kind of like the emotional or like the sacral center is my like, I guess, governing body for my emotions and stuff, which is 100% accurate to me. I am very like all over the map with emotions. And I really like, say I get an email that kind of fires me up or makes me feel a certain way. I can't respond in the moment because my best self is not going to be coming through in that moment. I'm curious, like there's these centers that aren't colored in. What does it mean if you have stuff that's not colored in?
So anything that's colored in on your chart, whether it be a center or one of the numbers around the center, like the gates or the channels, those are the lines that you see connecting the centers. Anything that's colored in, this means that you have consistent reliable access to whatever that center is responsible for. So example being your emotional solar plexus is colored in, that's the brown triangle. And then your sacral, your sacral center, that's the red square. You have consistent access. So the sacral center is responsible for, the life force energy. You fuel the work that you do fuels yourself. Like this is where our energy comes from. And then the solar plexus, the brown triangle, that's your emotions. So you are always experiencing emotions, like you said. However, if let's say that red square, the sacral was white, this would mean is that you actually absorb and amplify that energy from other people. So you would feel the energy when you're around other generators and manifesting generators. But if you were, let's say, a projector, a manifestor, or a reflector, they don't have that red square. Like their sacral is undefined, and anything that's undefined or white on your chart, this is where you absorb and amplify from other people. And so this would just mean that in the moments where people are around you that have those colored in, where you're white, you would absorb and amplify from them. But when they're not in your vicinity, you don't have consistent access to that center. And so this is where we experience a lot of wisdom and intuition. We talk a lot about power inside human design, and our power really comes from our colored in centers, where our wisdom and intuition really come from the open centers or the white centers on our chart.
Okay, that's interesting. So on mine, I've got the root center is open, my spleen center is open, my anja center is open, and my head center is open.
Okay. So I'm going to use your head center as an example then. So your head center is where we take in inspiration and ideas. And so because yours is open, this means that you absorb all of that from outside of yourself. So you're constantly, taking in ideas and inspiration. You actually get your ideas from outside of yourself. So it might be a conversation that you overhear at the grocery store, and then all of a sudden something that you hear somebody else say sparks an idea in you. Or you're going for a walk in nature, and all of a sudden it's like you have this big insight piece. And it's this constant absorption of outside information that allows you to create the ideas and things that you want to do inside your business. But on the flip side of that, this can be where we experience a lot of pressure because it's open. We always experience this pressure to try and figure things out, to answer other people's problems. And so for you, it's about understanding when consumption is good for you, when you're meant to be taking in outside information from like a podcast or a book, or, being in conversation with other people. And then when you actually need time to like cut that off in order to relieve the pressure that you're feeling, to answer the questions and to kind of sort things through.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's actually kind of interesting because just with everything that's happened in 2020, I was feeling so overwhelmed by being on social media. So I'm on like a social media detox right now, because I felt like energetically, each morning I was needing to protect myself from these like external inputs, because they impact me so much. It's like when I go online or I'm talking to people, it's like I get so impacted by the things I'm seeing and hearing that I was like, okay, I need like a force field up, because I can't take in like any more of people's stuff right now.
Yeah. And especially the fact that you have an open head center and then also an open ajna center, we talk about high frequency and low frequency inside of our centers in human design. And a low frequency inside each of those centers is this feeling of like overwhelm, is this feeling of anxiousness. It can also lead to like depression, in that being able to separate the information that we're absorbing and understanding what's meant for us and what are the pieces that we just need to kind of let go of. And this takes time and this takes practice, and it's not a perfect science by any means, but it's now knowing that this is your energy type, you're now aware of it. So you're now, you can be more intentional with the content that you absorb. Like for me, for example, I'm the same. I have an open head center and an open ajna center. And I know like when I'm creating content, when I'm creating, posting on Instagram or writing content for my programs, I'm very aware of the information that I'm consuming while I'm creating, so that I can be sure that what's coming through me is actually mine, and I'm not actually picking up on somebody else's and then just regurgitating it. And so once you have this awareness, you then get to like create structures and systems in your life and your business that support you. And so for you, it would be knowing like when you're in creation mode, it's not a good time to be listening to other people's podcasts, not a good time to be diving deep into books and books and books, like really giving yourself time to process information in your way through your voice and alleviating that pressure to figure everybody else's stuff out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really amazing. I love that. And I think it's just like, it kind of feels like as I've learned a little bit about this and as we're talking more, it feels like it's kind of all intuitive, yet it's kind of like giving yourself permission to tune into that a bit more. Cause like we kind of talked about at the beginning, there's so much stuff all over the place telling you what you should do and how you should do it and who you should be. And I think sometimes we can kind of let that cloud like our intuitive judgment as to who we are and how we should run our business.
Exactly. And like going back again to like that sacral center, like me and you, I'm a generator, you're a manifesting generator. We have the energy. Like when we're doing the work that lights us up, we can work a lot. Like we can be completely obsessed with what we're doing. And, 8, 10, 12-hour work days they don't necessarily phase us. However, a projector or reflector or a manifester, they're not here to work and work and work. They're not actually here to be doing a whole lot. So they often get conditioned into feeling lazy because they can't keep up. And so it's understanding what your strengths are, where you're actually meant to be showing up in the world so that you can let go of all that guilt and that shame that you feel that you should be doing it a certain way because that's how everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with generators and manifesting generators, is it the case that, and I think you kind of mentioned this before, that it really has to be work that's kind of inspiring them for them to have that energy?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, this is the big thing. Like if a generator or a manifesting generator comes to me and they tell me that they're tired and they're burnt out and they're exhausted, it's like, okay, then you're completely out of alignment and you're doing things from a place of should or from a place of obligation or you're not really trusting your sacral. And this is it. Our sacral will refuel itself when we're doing the work that lights us up. But the moment we're doing something that makes us feel frustrated or like angry, this is when we know that like we shouldn't be doing it anymore. So kind of going back to your business, Amanda, you have your hands in all these different pots, but the moment one of them starts to feel like a chore, or the moment one of them starts to feel like, oh, like I should do this, and it's like all of the energy is coming from this should place, this is your indication that it might be time to let that piece go. When you said about how do we make sure that we're showing up properly and we're able to make money and we're doing the things that work for us in our business, for you, it's going to be really tapping into that sacral and only doing the things that light you up. And for gens and Manny gens, our sacral is meant to respond in the present. It's not meant to respond in the future. So we're not actually here to make long-term plans. Like a 5-year business plan for gens and Manny gens, like it ain't going to happen. We don't even know what we're going to respond to tomorrow or next week. So we have to leave a lot of space and flexibility and let go of this idea that we need to be super planned in order to be successful. We're allowed to fly by the seat of our pants and make these, decisions and jump from thing to thing, because as long as it's lighting us up, it will work for us.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And I love this because it's like so kind of against the grain from what you hear, it's like consistently
Exactly,
people
yes.
are, especially this time of year, it's, we're heading into the end of 2020, 2021's coming up. It's like, planning, when are you going to launch programs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. And you're not meant to know. This is it, Amanda. Like, you're not like me. Like I just finished launching a program. One of my most recent programs started yesterday, and I'm like, I got no idea what's coming next for the rest of the year or in January or February. But like, I'm okay with that. Like, I trust myself enough to know that when my sacral says yes, that's what I'll go on. But there's no frantic energy for me just to put something out there, to have something out there, because that would put me out of alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. That totally makes sense. I am so excited to welcome back Offering Tree as our sponsor. You've heard me talk about them in the past, and many of you are already among their growing community of happy Offering Tree users. With everything that goes into running your yoga business, Offering Tree created a single platform that can solve all your marketing and time management headaches. With a single account, you can create a website in minutes, set up a newsletter, create a blog, schedule classes, and take payment. The great part is that all of Offering Tree's features work seamlessly together, so you don't need to pay for and manage 5 different services. Instead, you get it all in one easy, affordable package. And now, the big news. Offering Tree makes it easy for you to manage memberships. Annual, semi-annual, tiered offerings. Regardless of types of memberships you offer, you can create them in Offering Tree with the ease of use Offering Tree is becoming famous for. This amazing platform was built by yogis, so you know they get it. Offering Tree also provides helpful tutorials and webinars to keep you growing as a teacher. It's part of their mission as a public benefit corporation. I love their product and their company. They're providing special pricing for MBOM listeners. So if you want to spend more time teaching and less time managing your digital presence, then check them out at offeringtree.com/MBOM. Again, that's offeringtree.com/MBOM. All right, now back to the episode. And so we've kind of touched a little bit. I mean, we've touched the most kind of on like manifesting generator, which is mine. And then there's generator, which you said yours is. And then projector, reflector. And what is the 5th one?
Manifestors.
Manifestors. Can you give a high level overview with the other 4 that aren't the one that I am?
Yep, 100%. So manifestors are the only energy type that are here to actually initiate and make things happen. And so they're like this, they're usually more of like an eccentric energy. They've got big ideas, big visions, and they're here to just do what they want. They don't need anybody else to make shit happen. They're here to just follow their desires and trust that what they see is possible is possible. And they're, I haven't really touched on the idea of strategy in human design, but with each of our energetic types, we each have a type, a strategy, and an authority. So for manifestors, their strategy is to inform people. So they're here to just really tell people what's going on in their life. They're not here to ask permission to do what they want to do. So manifestors are really just here to like follow where they're being inspired, and their energy is really hit and miss. So they get these surges of these almost like impulses of energy for things that they're excited about. But how long that energy lasts, there's no idea. Like that surge of energy could last a day, a week, a month, a couple years. And then it literally just shuts off. And this is their chance to rest and regenerate and refresh and get those new ideas for the next big thing. And so their energy is really fluctuating up and down throughout their life, which again can lead them to feel like they're unreliable or they're lazy or, they can't stick to anything. But they're not here to be that way. They're here to really be led by their desire and where that inspiration is hitting them. And then just informing and enrolling people along the way rather than asking for permission to do what they want to do. Then we have projectors, and projectors are really here. They're like the natural guides, the natural leaders. They have this incredible ability to see into the other person. So we like to say that they're of the other. So they can see into other people and notice what's not working and what is working before the other person even has any clue of it. They are really the natural overseers, problem solvers, and their energy works in shorter, more efficient, more effective doses. So when I said at the beginning, like 4 to 6 hours, like a projector can get more done in 4 hours than most of the world can get done in like 8 or 10 hours. They have this ability to really focus in and be effective and efficient in a shorter period of time. But they're really here to really play and experience life from this place of pleasure and joy and fun. And so a projector who's in alignment is really working short, intense periods of time throughout their day and then having fun and playing the rest of the day. But the projectors are often made to feel like they have to do more and they have to like hustle and show up more and be in all the places, but that's not what their design is here for. Their strategy, projector strategy, is to wait for the invitation. So unlike the manifestor, where the manifestor can just go out and make stuff happen, a projector needs to be seen and recognized for their natural gifts and be invited into a situation. And so this is where this waiting period for projectors can sometimes be hard in the beginning to really understand and grasp. But when they do wait, when they trust their gifts, the most aligned invitations come their way and everything moves in a more ease-filled, flowy way for them. And then the third type, reflectors. Reflectors are incredibly rare in human design. They make up less than 1% of the population. And what makes them so unique is that all 9 centers in their chart are open. So they're constantly absorbing and amplifying the energy of the world around them. And they are really here to be these mirrors, to really reflect back what is working, what's not working, where we can improve. And they're really here to just kind of like feel into their environment. So their environment is key for them. So if you're a reflector and you're listening to this, really taking notice of how you feel in the different spaces that you're engaging in. Anything that makes you feel less than, or that feels toxic, or that feels heavy is a really big indication that you're not in the right place. So really creating these beautiful, supportive environments is going to be key for the reflector. And then generators and manifesting generators are very similar in their energy type because we do have that sacral center defined. The difference between the generator and the manifesting generator, the big one, is that generators are here to be masters of their crafts, where, like I said, a manifesting generator is a master multitasker. A generator is a master of their craft. So it's about finding like a common theme or thread in their life. And we're here for mastery. We're here for building that foundation. We're here to be an expert in the thing that we're doing in life. And same with the Manny Gens, as long as we're following what lights us up, this is what gives us that energy. And this is what gives us that ability to really be this, gens and Manny Gens, we're here to take up a lot of space. We're here to be loud. We're here to be, like the shiny object. Like we're here to be seen and recognized because we've got the energy to sustain it. And so, this is just a super high level overview of each of the 5 types. But as you can hear, like they're all very different. And so no one strategy in building your business is going to work for all 5 energy types. So this is why it's so important to understand who you are and how you're meant to be working so that you can be making those decisions from that aligned place. And so you reduce the resistance and you get to step into the ease and the flow and the fun and do things your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for going through all of that. And I think that it's really inspiring to hear that you can kind of figure this out and then learn a little bit about who you are and how you're meant to be working, and then really apply that to your business.
Exactly. And this is what I love so much about human design is that, I love the individual differences in people and really being able to use their design to get even at a deeper level of understanding what lights individuals up and what works for one person won't work for another person. It's almost like problem solving and puzzle piecing together to really understand like who you are and what you're here for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. One question that I wanted to follow up on, just specific to when you were talking about with manifesting generators and burnout, is kind of this idea. And this is actually something I experienced this a bit into the pandemic, just feeling like this complete burnout in a way, honestly, that I hadn't felt before. And I was like, something feels totally unaligned. I took a couple of days to kind of refresh and that type of thing, which was so good. But one of the things that's, I think, hard is like knowing when you should actually let go of something. And I'm curious if you can kind of talk about like using your human design to kind of like really trust that you'll go in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah. And the word trust is a really big piece of human design because especially in the beginning, when you're just learning about all this, it can be hard to trust. We like to say that like a lot of the times our sacral or whatever the different authorities are, oftentimes they don't make logical sense. And so your sacral might be saying yes to something that logically your brain's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Like, what are you thinking? And it really does come down to trusting your gut or trusting your authority and knowing that when you do make those aligned decisions, you will be led in the right direction. And it's always in hindsight that you're like, right, that's why I decided this. That's why this was perfect for me. Or on the flip side, like, oh my God, why did I say yes to this? Now I'm stuck in this thing that I don't actually want to do. And I think, for you, knowing that you also have an undefined root center, which is that bottom square, like the undefined root, like you're here to do things on your time. Like the undefined root center is really here to manage their own schedule, to create their own deadlines and their own timelines. The moment you start to feel rushed or pressured to get something done by a certain time, it can really cause like stress and anxiety in the undefined root. So knowing that you're a Manny-gen with all this energy and wanting to do all the things that have your hands in all these different pots with an undefined root center is really knowing, like, as long as you're in control of your schedule and in control of when you're supposed to be doing things, then it will make it easier for you to move through. And then trusting that sacral. When the light's gone, then the job is no longer meant for you. And it's trusting that and then making that scary jump into the illogical move. And then being able to look back on hindsight is to be like, right, this is why this happened.
Right. I love that. That totally makes sense too for me with the root center. I really do not like when people try to control my time. It's actually like I worked a corporate job that was really well suited to my skill set and I got paid well. I mean, I had all the benefits and stuff like that. And I felt like I was like in prison. I hated that I had to show up to work at this time and stay till this time and I could only eat at this time. I was not into it at all. I was like, I need to figure out a different way. I feel like I'm like in jail.
Yeah. And that's it, right? Like, and I think, the undefined, like you're really just here to go on your own time, like your own schedule. Like I have my son is an undefined root and, hurry up are like his kryptonite. The moment I say hurry up, all of a sudden he's like, like nothing feels good anymore for him. So it's like, it's once you know this about yourself, then you get to create the business that works for you. You get to create the rules that work for you. Like my motto is like my biz, my rules, like my biz, my way, always. Like this is what it comes down to. And this is what human design gives you is this ability to have that trust in your way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so one of the things we've kind of talked about is this idea of trust and tapping into kind of these defined centers. I'm curious if you have any tips for somebody who goes through the process of like getting their results and learning a little bit about what it means to actually start, going from, okay, I understand conceptually that, when I feel burnt out, I should leave this job to like actually trusting that you can do that.
Yeah, it's, what, there's no one answer that I can give in human design though. Like the foundational pieces that I always coach on and that we need to be really like grounded in is our energy type, our strategy, and our authority. And then once we're at like a really good place of alignment in those three pieces, this is when I would then coach people in their individual centers. So somebody who's just starting to understand their human design, I would really have them focus really just on like checking in with their energetic type. So as a Manny-gen, are they really allowing themselves to experience all the things that are lighting them up? Or are they living in this place of shoulding and people pleasing and trying to pick just one? And so this is where we would start your human design journey. And, it's an experiment. Human design is meant to be an experiment. It's not a quick fix switch that you just all of a sudden, your human design and you're perfectly aligned. It doesn't happen that way. It takes time. It takes willingness to do, the shadow work, the deconditioning work, the looking at where you've actually been working out of alignment and letting go of old patterns and old behaviors that you've only done because you've been conditioned to do so, not because that's actually what feels good for you. And it's over time that you build this trust. I usually say it's like start with like the smaller decisions, start with like the little things like for gens and Manny-gens. Excuse me. It's like, we want to be using our sacral for the big decisions, but we won't trust it for the big decisions if we're not using it for the small decisions, right. Like asking yourself what you want for dinner. You know what I mean? Do I want pizza? Yes, no. Do I want a salad? Yes, no. Like we need to be able to hear and trust our sacral for the small decisions in order to be able to trust it and hear it for the big decisions.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense to me. Being able to kind of tune into that and really like trust your own decision-making capacity will help you be able to tune in for those bigger decisions. I think that
Exactly.
100% makes sense.
Yeah.
Amazing. There's like so much good stuff in here. I'm also like so curious about, I feel like this must make a difference in like, I would imagine like work relationships as well as romantic partnerships.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Understanding because, we all just want permission to be ourselves and we all just want to like be confident in who we are. And so once we understand our own human design and we give ourselves permission, at the same time, we also allow permission for other people to be who they are. And so it really helps remove those expectations and, the way that we think other people should be behaving or responding or making decisions or anything in their life and in their business. It's literally just permission for everybody to be themselves. And it alleviates so many conflicts because a lot of those conflicts stem from an expectation that isn't met. And if we can remove those expectations, then the conflict doesn't need to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of with workplace hiring, more and more people are using personality tests and stuff, things like Myers-Briggs. And I think that's a really positive step towards understanding the people that you're working with. But this seems like you can go even one step forward since it's not going to change at some point. Some big life event isn't going to change who that person is to really understand, the people that you're working with, the people that you're living with. And, even like you said, with understanding your son, I'm sure that's incredibly helpful with young children to understand who they are.
100%, Amanda. The impact and the ripple effect of human design is never ending. It's never ending.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I am so grateful for your time today, Kari. You have touched on so much amazing stuff. And I know that the well is deep with this. So I know I'm definitely going to be learning more. I know you offer some amazing services for people if they want to do coaching, if they want to learn more about human design. Can you share with people where they can go to find you?
Yeah, definitely. I hang out most on Instagram at Kari Russell Coaching. And then I also have a private Facebook group called Leveled Up Leaders. And I offer one-on-one human design readings and intensives. And then I also have a program called Illume, which is a 4-week deep dive into human design that will be running again in early 2021.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today and for this wonderful conversation.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, friends, I hope that you enjoyed that episode of the podcast with Kari Russell. Hopefully you're feeling a little bit invigorated to learn more about this. I know I certainly was. And on this week's bonus episode of the show, so on MBO Behind the Scenes, I am diving into how I've actually been utilizing human design and being a manifesting generator in my own business. So I'll be diving a little bit more in depth about how I've been applying these concepts to my business and utilizing them since this interview. So if you would like to listen to that and glean a little bit more insights about how you can use human design in your life and in your business, head on over to patreon.com/MBO Yoga. I'd love to have you there. Thanks again to our sponsor, Offering Tree. To start teaching more and managing less, head on over to offeringtree.com/MBO to get an exclusive discount. Once again, that's offeringtree.com/MBO to get a discount. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of the podcast. To find links, notes, resources, and everything mentioned in today and all episodes of the show, you can head on over to mbomyoga.com. You can find the podcast and myself on Facebook and social media at Mastering the Business of Yoga. And I would love for you to join the private Facebook community, Yoga Business Badasses. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please make sure you reach out to me at info@mbomyoga.com. And last of all, if you enjoyed this episode of the show, please make sure you hit subscribe and leave a review for the podcast. It would mean the world. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.